So in John chapters 8 and 9, we see Jesus claiming to be the light of the world and backing up his claim with evidence by healing a blind man. And this starts a debate between Jesus and the religious leaders, who get the idea that he's suggesting that they're blind, that they don't really know what they're talking about. And into that sort of conversation, Jesus introduces a new idea, and he introduces himself as "I am the door of the sheep." This seems to be a strange idea, but let's remember that in the past, God has identified himself as the shepherd of the people and looks to the religious leaders to be the shepherds of the sheep. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. But to understand the picture, we probably need to understand the context. Most families in villages in Jesus' time would not have been rich enough to have their own flock of sheep. They probably only would have had 2 or 3 sheep, and they would have kept them in a courtyard within their home, where most of the homes would have a courtyard that would just have one doorway in. The walls would be about 6.5 feet high, so the sheep would be able to be kept safe and secure in the sheepfold. Because they were poor, they wouldn't also be able to afford a shepherd, and consequently they would sort of club together with their neighbours, and together they would share a shepherd. Often this would be the son or 2 daughters from a family, and they would only hire somebody if they couldn't get a member of the family to do it. This shepherd would then go along every morning and would either knock on the door or call out, and because people recognised the voice, they would open the door to allow the sheep to leave. And because the sheep recognised the voice of the shepherd, they would then leave the courtyard through the door and follow the shepherd up onto the hill for the grazing. The shepherd would then bring the sheep back at the end of the day, and they would go back into the sheepfold and the door would be closed. So the image that Jesus was using was a familiar image to the people of the time. And they would also have been familiar that if somebody was going to steal their sheep, they would be climbing over the wall rather than coming through the door. There is a significance about doors that's worth pausing to think about here, and I'm going to use 3 different images of doors to help us to do that. And the first image that I want us to use is the idea that doors speak of permission. Doors work 2 ways. You can come in and you can go out through doors. And in our life, doors speak about giving access, because we can give rights of access to things to come through a doorway. So for many of us, we've given permission for things to happen in our life that are good, but sometimes we give permission in our lives for things to happen that are bad. We give rights of permission for things to enter, such as addiction or hurt or pain, or we let people into our life who cause us damage. Jesus redeemed some of this, where in Revelation 3 we see an image that was painted by Holman Hunt many years later, but an image of Jesus standing at the door and knocking. And the invitation is for us to stand on the other side of the door and to open the door from the inside and give Jesus permission to enter. And that leads us to thinking of our second image, which is one of security. Doors are often the weakest point of a house's security. And if you think back to an image we're probably familiar with in this country of a castle, the doorway would be the weakest point in the wall and consequently would be heavily defended. And in the current climate that we find ourselves with lockdown, we're encouraged to go indoors because indoors is safe. Indoors is a place of safety, and when that door is closed, we're in a safe place. The third image that I want to give us is the idea of an open door. Doors speak of opportunity. A door can be closed and a door can be open. And in the Bible there's 180 references to open doors. It symbolises better communication or agreement. When we open our front door and we go out, we're accessing the world. And open doors speak of new beginnings, they speak of new opportunities, of going out and discovering what's really out there. In verse 9, Jesus says, "Whoever enters through me will be saved." In other words, Jesus is saying that the only way to discover some of that security or some of that opportunity, to really know that sense of being safe and being with God and having peace and security, is for us to go through Jesus as the only way to a relationship with the Father. Jesus, representing himself as the door, is picking up this symbology from the Old Testament, where the sheep were representative of the people of God, and he's inviting us to make a decision of whether we will invite him through the door.